These are the 20 books I read in September. September was a really good reading month for me. I had several 5-star reads and only a couple below 3 stars, along with a very mixed bag of genres. So starting off the month with a dark romantic comedy, I read Lights Out by Navessa Allen. This was honestly hilarious, super fun to follow along. Obviously read trigger warnings because it is a dark comedy, so it does have dark and gritty elements. My dishwasher. There we go. Super funny and entertaining, and I gave this book 5 stars. The next book I read was Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. It's the second book in her new Rose Hill series. It's another single dad romance, and the FMC in this one is a famous singer. I love the first book in this series, and I also really like this one. I ended up giving it a 4.25. Next up, I read book 3 and 4 in the Eddie Flynn series by Steve Kavanaugh. I started this series originally only to read book 4, but I ended up loving all the other books as well. The third book is called The Liar, and I gave this one 4 stars. And the fourth book is called 13. I gave this one 5 stars. I expected to, but I ended up loving even more than I thought I would. These are legal thrillers. The series follows Eddie Flynn, who is a lawyer and an ex-con man, and the cases he works on. I would definitely recommend this series if you love courtroom dramas and books with a lot of twists. The next book I read was Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. This is a super sweet and mature romance. There's a dog, which I mean, that's all I need. This was super fun and cute, and I rated it a 4.5 stars. Next book I read was Across State Lines by Lauren Beale. This is a super dark hitchhiker romance in her, I think the series is called Hitchhiker Romances? No, Ride or Die Romances. It is super graphic, so definitely check trigger warnings, and apart from being graphic, it also touches a lot on mental health. I ended up rating this book 3 stars. Next up is a non-fiction book, actually a memoir to be specific. I read Sociopath by Patrick Gagney. I think it's pronounced Gagney. I listened to this one actually. The audiobook is narrated by the author, which I really love. I expected to find this super interesting, and I was really looking forward to hearing her story living with this personality disorder. But I found her stories extremely hard to believe. It seemed more like fiction to me, and not just fiction, but not very well written fiction, not very believable. So I don't know if it was just me or if I should have read the book instead or what it was, but I did not enjoy it. I did enjoy the beginning of the book, and I was really excited to read it. I was actually I had it on hold on Libby, but I did end up rating this a 2 star. I do not usually like to rate memoirs low, but something about this, I don't know. It's probably just a me problem. Anyway, the next book I read was Dark Across the Bay by Anya Albarn. This is an isolated horror, really fast-paced, very interesting, but did end up reading more like a thriller to me, which I don't necessarily mind. It was exciting, it had a great twist, but it ended up being a 3 star for me. Anya Albarn wrote one of my favorite horror books of all time called Brother, so I am slowly working my way through reading her entire backlist, and they're always enjoyable. Next, I started the Zodiac Academy series. I read the first 3 books. The first one, which is called The Awakening, which I gave 4.5, and the second one called Ruthless Fae, which I gave a 5 stars, and the third one, The Reckoning, which I gave a 4.75. I have previously not read any Omegaverse or werewolf stuff. I always thought, you know, that's not for me, and assumed that I would just find it very hard to take seriously. Zodiac Academy does have some elements of that. It has a lot of different fantasy elements, and I actually ended up finding it a lot less cringy than I thought I would. No shame, of course, if you're into Omegaverse and werewolves, just not my thing personally. I ended up really loving this series and I'm so excited to continue. The reveal and twist, cliffhanger, whatever, at the end of book 3 was crazy. And I did myself the disservice of starting the most complicated reading order of the Zodiac Academy Solaria universe, meaning that after book 3, I'm not reading book 4, I'm going and reading an entire other series, The Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, which is 5 long books, and I am 3 books in. I'll get to them, but oh my god, I am struggling with that. I'm gonna stick to it, but it is hard. Next, I started the Gold Rush Ranch series by Elsie Silver. I read Off to the Races, which is the first book in the series. I've obviously read her newest series, Rose Hill, and I've also read all of Chestnut Springs. So I thought, why not go back, read her first series, see if I like that as much as the other books. And sadly, this first one was a bit of a miss for me. There was a lot of horses in it. I didn't find the love connection very strong, but it was her first book, and I will be finishing the series despite rating this one a 2 stars. Next up, I started the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series. I read Dark Fae. This is a very slow reverse harem / white shoes fantasy romance where we also are following this mystery plot of what happened to the main girl's brother. I enjoy the characters a lot, not as much as I enjoy the Zodiac Academy characters, but I do enjoy it, and I rated this first one 4.5. Next, I just needed a good old thriller. Those are my comfort books. And one of my comfort authors is Sherry LaPena, so I read The End of Her. This is a domestic suburban thriller. These books keep me entertained the entire way through, even if I'm not a fan of the conclusion or the characters or anything. It's just the writing and the way the story moves along. Something about it just feels really satisfying to me, so I love these books. I gave this one 4 stars. Next up is a dark and spicy Halloween novella. I listened to this one with my boyfriend. It is Welcome to Carnage by Selena Winters. This was, you know, fun, gritty, not incredible writing, not very good plot or anything, just a fun time. I gave this one a 2.5. Next up is the second book in the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series called Savage Fae. This is when I realized that the plot of the first book is not just the plot of the first book, it's the plot of the entire series. So things that I imagined would be resolved by now have not been resolved. It is starting to drag a little bit, and you really feel how slow and long these are at this point. I'm enjoying the books, but I do think I would enjoy them more if I read them separately. I did rate this one a 4 stars because I enjoy the writing, I enjoy the story, I enjoy the characters. Personally, I just want to get back to the main series at this point, but I am powering through. Next is another Sherry LaPena. This is her new book, What Have You Done? This is a small town thriller about a high school girl being found dead, and we kind of get the POVs of the people around her trying to figure out what happened to her. I enjoy this small town drama situation. I thought the book was great. I thought it had some great commentary on the dangers of being a young attractive girl, and I gave this one 4 stars as well. Next, I read The Nature of Disappearing by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. Her book, These Silent Woods, was one of my favorite books of like earlier this year, recent history. It's like one of my favorite recent reads. I absolutely loved that book. I cried, I sobbed, I ate it up. This, from the cover, from the title, seemed to be along those lines. It wasn't, but the writing was really good and the story was very entertaining and unique. We follow an experienced hiker as she sets out to find an old friend of hers in the wilderness along with her ex-boyfriend. The plot was super thrilling, though I did find the conclusion at the end a little bit unsatisfying. Sorry, I'm just... Cat intermission. Cat intermission. Next, I read The Fabric of Our Souls by K.M. Moranova. Definitely check trigger warnings for this one. It is very dark and emotional, and it deals with a lot of mental health issues and events that, you know, can be pretty rough to read about. Plot went a little bit crazy, but I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. Last book I read in September was Dark by S.A. Harrion. This is a dark, trippy sci-fi horror. It's very exciting and unique. There were many jaw-dropping moments in this book. I even had to like stop and stare at a wall for a while with one of these things especially. That being said, I'm not gonna tell you much about it, and I suggest if you are interested in reading it that you also don't really go looking up anything, because this book is definitely one of those books where if you go in blind, you'll have the best experience. This, as far as I'm aware, is going to be a trilogy. The 3rd book is not out yet. I am definitely going to read the 2nd one, but I'm a little bit afraid because I feel like a lot of stuff's gonna happen in the 2nd book, so I'm kind of thinking about waiting until the 3rd book is closer to coming out or has come out. I gave this book a 4.5 star rating. Anyway, these were the 20 books I read in September. All in all, a pretty good reading month for me, especially rating-wise. And this coming week, I will be reading only popular fantasy books, and I'm going to be filming it and doing a video. So if that's something you're interested in watching, you can subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching, and bye!